doing it out. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live from the Mappable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks, we got an interesting topic tonight. We're going to talk about crowdfunding for starters, investment banking for starters. And to do that, let's introduce Vicky Hutchmala from the World Token Market. Vicky, how are you doing today?
I'm fabulous today, Ron. Great day in Vegas, and we have an exciting podcast that shows you what we hope to help you understand, that using right advisors to help you lead you to success. And we have an advisor, we have a client of his, and this is going to be one exciting podcast, and we should start.
All right, that sounds good. So let's bring on Manuj Grover first. Manuj is with Public Yield Capital, and Manuj, how are you doing today over there?
I'm doing great, Ron. Once again, thank you for having me back. I really do enjoy our conversation, so it's a real pleasure, and happy 2024 to everyone. Yeah,
it's a new year,
Absolutely.
And so much stuff is going on in the crowdfunding world here. And I know you've been really busy with it, and in fact, we really appreciate you bringing on one of your colleagues. So let's introduce him as well. We got Kevin Morris. He's the Atlas Road CEO. Kevin, how are you doing over there today?
I'm doing great. It's calling you from Los Angeles. It's going to be 80 degrees tomorrow. So no complaints, especially in late January.
No doubt about it. And also, didn't you guys just recently have an earthquake over there in LA or something?
We have earthquakes we probably just had one while we started this call. They happen all the time.
Yes, well, the podcast is a safe space for sure. But so listen, before we get started with this, let's go with Manuj first. Manuj, you've been a guest on the show before. Most people know who you are, but just in case they don't, can you give us a quick little background on you and how you got into crowdfunding and everything?
For sure. So once again, Manuj Grover. I'm one of the founders and vice president of business development and partnerships at Public Yield Capital. Started in the crowdfunding space in 2016, working mostly on the tech side, brands like CoreConnex, Dealmaker, and in 2020 had the opportunity of joining an investor marketing firm that focus on public companies. And when COVID hit, we realized that we needed to pivot to survive, and went full force into equity crowdfunding. So started with helping start issuers or companies that want to raise capital, build their websites, do the media buying, build ads, create online content. And over time, realized there's a gap in the market because you could do as much digital work as you can and do as many ads and generate leads. But the truth of the matter is raising capital is complicated. Investors have a lot of questions. And if they have nobody to talk to, you can't really build trust with them. So we pivoted again, or basically adjusted our business model to enter into investor outreach, meaning we provide investor relation support to a lot of these crowdfunding issuers so that they can talk to their investors, understand what the tone is, understand if the messaging is working, help the marketing team pivot and optimize their campaigns, and basically hold the investor's hand during their investment journey and push them across the finish line.
Right, great.
Very nice.
For a long time. And again, let's go back to Kevin real quickly. Kevin, can you give us an overview of your background as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So I spent the last 8 or 9 years of my career running startups. I started in apparel, and then segued into robotics. And so throughout that journey, I was a CFO, sort of co-founder or CEO role, and raised a lot of capital for my own companies through equity crowdfunding, and raised about $85 million for a company called Miso Robotics, which I was the CFO and on the board of for almost 4 years, and a few other companies. And about a year and a half ago, I decided to switch roles and help other companies raise capital. I was sort of really had a lot of passion for the strategic side of fundraising and meeting new companies, and decided to sort of switch my role. So now I run a firm called Atlas Road, as you mentioned, and I like to think of us a bit like the investment bank for startups, where we're partnering with startups and helping them quarterback and advise them on their fundraising process. And yeah, it's in Public Yield Capital, Manuj's company, is one of my partners in this space, and we can get into it more later, but they've been extremely invaluable in all of my clients and my own fundraising efforts.
Yeah, it's interesting that you target the startups, the investment banking for startups, because that's really kind of a group of companies that sometimes gets left behind with crowdfunding, because a lot of people think, they have no money, they're bad risk or whatever, it's hard to get going. But it's interesting that you are targeting that demographic, that marketplace. So how do you guys do that?
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny when equity crowdfunding got into place in about almost 10 years ago now. It's crazy. In the U.S., it was usually really early stage startups and companies that at the time maybe they didn't have other paths to raising capital, and so they went to the crowd. And in the crowd, you're raising millions of dollars from thousands of people. That's certainly changed in the last year or two, and I know Manuj has seen that as well with Public Yield, as you're getting more mature companies that are looking at equity crowdfunding as well. But effectively, you're selling securities online, right? It's like e-commerce, and I have an e-commerce background, so you're not selling something physical, you're selling, shares in a company, and you're doing it through licensed brokers. A number of them are companies like DealMaker, Start Engine, WeFunder, to name a few. And you're doing digital marketing efforts, and you're raising and you're selling stock online. So it is literally like e-commerce, but I like to say it's e-commerce, and Manuj loves this line, but it's e-commerce with a really high average order value, right? You're selling regulated securities, and the average ticket size or average investment could be $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, and it's important to have a service and a team. Manuj's company being one of the primary examples, a team to help answer people's questions, to help facilitate the process. If they're having issues checking out, they can. Manuj's team is there to help out, and they do a lot more than that. And obviously, we'll let Manuj talk about that. But you want the best level of customer service, the best level of experience for these investors, because not only are they spending a lot of money and they're buying a regulated security, but they're also going to be on your cap table. They're going to be an asset. They're in the family, right? They're an investor, and so you want to have the best experience for them.
So let me ask you this, Kevin. How did you and Manuj start your relationship that led to where you are now?
Well, this is not, unfortunately, fortunately for Manuj and I, this is not a video podcast, but Manuj and I have the same barber. We both have no hair. I like to joke. So other than being members of the Bald Mafia, we got introduced, maybe 3 years ago. Manuj did some work for some of my companies in the robotics space, and it's been happily ever after since. And, we partner on a number of deals together, and they've been instrumental in raising capital and having successful raises for me and my clients.
Yeah, and we've had Manuj on podcasts before to talk about crowdfunding appears to be something that's easy to do. Anybody can do it. But in reality, it's not. And you need to have an advisor, the quality of Manuj, to help you to be successful in your raise. But let me ask you this. I've looked at the companies that you've worked with, especially the robotics. That's very interesting what you're doing with that. But are you finding in your experience that crowdfunding, more people are getting into crowdfunding as they understand it more and are getting successful raises, or is it still a difficult thing to enter into?
I think more people are open to it. I think the last 12 to 18 months, you've seen traditional fundraising sources dry up a bit, VCs and the like. And so I think companies have started to look at crowdfunding more, because the nice thing about crowdfunding is it provides a path and a sort of roughly clear timeline to getting money in the door. Now, how much money you're going to raise and how long it's going to take to raise that money, that depends on a lot of factors. But it puts the fundraising back in the control of the founders and executives versus, having to knock on doors and pound the pavement for VC checks. And it could take you a year to raise $1 million, it could take $1 million in that process, or it could take a week to raise $1 million. So I think a lot of founders have started to explore crowdfunding recently because, again, it puts the power in their hands and they can control the timeline more. And frankly, also, you're sort of giving up different rights and controls through crowdfunding. You're not giving up board seats. You're not giving up sort of crazy preferred stock terms. These investors who invest in crowdfunding deals are along for the ride. They are passionate about the business. They have a different lens than the Silicon Valley VC. I would say in terms of the difficulty, it's and Manuj would attest to this. You have these founders, these creators, these people who are creatives or engineers, and they're building their business. They may have the best business or idea ever, but running a crowdfund is different. And I've seen a lot of failed crowdfunds for great businesses that didn't set up the deal terms properly, didn't have the right marketing assets, didn't have the right partners, so on and so forth. And it's not rocket science, but it certainly takes a different finesse and a different skill set. And there's a lot of levers you're moving. You're not just talking to people and pitching your idea. You're literally setting up an e-commerce business and trying to sell stock. And if that's not your core competency, then it can be difficult. But I do think that the industry is maturing more. You're seeing a lot more deals out there, and you're seeing a lot better deals too.
And you know what I really like about crowdfunding is the passion of the person who has created the product or service is so passionate about what they're doing, but a lot of their investors, especially through crowdfunding, are the people that use the product, that are passionate about it, that then invest into the company and are able to, because they don't, you don't need to have the investor with the big bucks. You can have the investor with little bucks who just wants to be part of your what you're doing, and it makes them excited.
Exactly. I couldn't have put it better. And you'll see that for B2B businesses that don't have a consumer-facing element, but you also see that for B2C. And that's one of the trends that I'm starting to see more of is B2C businesses really, really sort of harvesting the marketing funnel and the brand loyalty and the brand ambassador sort of angle for their fundraisers. And it's like, if I can get passionate customers to also be investors, that's a double win for me, right? I have people on the street who not only use my product, but also are owners, and vice versa. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and it kind of creates a role, it creates an environment where the people who use your product can now invest in your company, and it just skyrockets because they tell their friends, and pretty soon you got a whole bucket full of investors that you never thought would, or they never thought would ever do anything like this. So it's a win-win for everybody as long as you do it right in the first place.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Well, there's only one problem with that, though. The problem is you have to get the word out to the investors that the thing is available. It's in their grasp.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's where Manuj comes in really nicely.
Well, Ron, if I can add, and once again, I know you haven't heard from me a lot, but this was an amazing conversation. I didn't want to interrupt, so thank you for this little segue. When you're doing crowdfunding, as Kevin stated, it's basically an e-commerce transaction. You have to think in that mentality. So, and you have to decide either you want to get as much volume done in a short period of time as possible, or you work on the long-term strategy and say, okay, we're going to raise money multiple times, and we're going to build a brand where we're going to get loyal investors that will help us grow exponentially. And like Kevin said earlier, he was one of the C-suite at Miso Robotics. One of their superpowers were they were able to build a community, investors that invested in, as well as a lot of followers. So these multiple rounds that they did, it was getting easier and easier, and their acquisition cost was dropping because they were able to build this following of people who may not have invested in the first deal, but came in the second, third, and fourth. And where we were able to help is that as much as anybody can spend on marketing, you spend $1, $10, $1,000, $1 million on marketing efforts, and you get that lead to come into your funnel everything's fine and dandy, and they come to the finish line. Then what? If they don't fill out the paperwork and make that payment, it's all for naught. So where we pivoted and where we saw our growth for our organization was helping that investor, like I said at the beginning, the journey at the end, making sure they're comfortable with the process and saying, hey, do you have any questions on how to fill out this paperwork? And we do help. We don't tell them what to do, but we explain to them why it's in the particular answer. Like some people ask, why are we giving our social security number? The government will get it. Then my team advises them the government already has it, so you don't have to worry about that. And you'll be surprised how many people ask that question. And then furthermore, once they've filled out the paperwork, people forget to make the payment. So we just do the follow-up. So it becomes part of the user experience, and which is a very e-commerce style of thinking. And then from there, it builds loyalty. People are happy with the process. You continue with the communication. And then when the second round, third round happens, it just gets easier and easier.
Right, and you have to, like you say, Manuj, you have to adapt what you're doing to serve your clients and to serve the public better. So if this helped, great. If this helps better, then let's incorporate this into making it better, not only for your company, but for all the clients that you help, because it becomes a win-win for everybody. And the seed of it is getting the passion into the people to want to do this and to take it to the next level.
Kevin used an example that I've stolen from him, and I've actually done in a few talks stated this. So, and I've cited him as well.
We won't tell anyone.
But he once said to me that an average transaction in equity crowdfunding is about $1,000. The only thing you can have it close to of that type of expense is a Louis Vuitton little small bag or a scarf. I don't have one of those, just to let you know. Or a pair of shoes.
Manuj, I'm sure your wife has pleny, right? You're very generous to her, right?
Yes. I stopped looking at her closet just for my own sanity. I'll be pulling out my nose hairs because I have no hair on my head.
Well, Manuj, you better stop plagiarizing from Kevin, because otherwise you're going to end up as the president of Harvard one of these days.
I'm not going to touch that. I'm not going to touch that at all.
Oh, that was bad.
But okay. Anyway, getting back to what you said before, Manuj, about somebody not understanding the paperwork or whatever. I mean, how do you work with these people? Is it online? Is it face to face? Or what if someone's in a different state than you?
It's multifaceted. So just to finish my previous thought with the Louis Vuitton bag, the point I was trying to make was it's about giving customer service. That's what Louis Vuitton's known for. And having the attitude that these investors are actually customers buying a product being securities. But if you treat them like customers and give them that respect, you will see a better user experience and more loyalty. So as a result, now segueing into the question you just asked, Ron, you have to provide as much opportunity for communication as possible. So we set up a toll-free number for every client. So if they wish to call, they can pick up the phone and call. We make sure an investor relations email is set up, and my team handles that. So if they have email questions, through the toll-free number, they can do text messages that they send in, and my team will respond. And we're now trying to integrate chats and also other like WhatsApp type of platforms, so that basically we provide as much variety of opportunities to communicate, and that my team, under compliant means, responds to all their questions. Because the one thing we have to keep in mind is not only to protect ourselves and our clients, we're selling securities that fall under SEC regulations. There's a proper process of communication. We can only state things that are within the public domain, things that are stated in the Form 1A for Reg A's and Form C for Reg CFs. And so therefore we have to, and going back to our genesis of working with public companies, that experience helps us a lot in what we're doing now.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Now let's take a fictitious CEO who has just heard about crowdfunding and says, okay, I want to kind of learn about this, maybe get into it a little bit, and and maybe they call you, right? And they say, I heard about this stuff. Let's say, Kevin, somebody calls you, I want to get into crowdfunding. What do you tell them? Do you go through the whole options, Reg C, Reg A, 506? What do you say to the guy?
Yeah, So, one of the services that we offer and I offer is, because I like to say I'm platform agnostic and broker agnostic. So I've worked with, not all of them, but I've worked with quite a few sort of brokers in the space. So when I speak with a potential issuer or an issuer, right, someone who's raising money, a startup, we'll walk through a variety of things. How much you need to raise? When do you need to raise it? How big's your community? Do you have a large one? Do you not? What's your, what type of business do you have? Because there's certain portals and platforms out there that work better for different companies. Also Reg CF, which you can raise up to $5 million without the SEC reviewing the offering. You could do Reg A plus, $75 million, or you can do a 506C, which is sort of an unlimited amount. You have to raise only from accredited investors, and so every company has a different angle to it. But all those companies, and I'm sorry, not all those companies, all those fundraisers have different, those fundraise options have something similar, which is you are marketing a stock online, and, again, you have to be able to efficiently sell your product, your service, and communicate it to the general public. And it's important to have the right storytelling. It's important to have the right video, the right images, right? Because you don't have the ability to sit in front of every prospective investor for an hour and pitch them and do a Q&A session like you would do when you're raising money traditionally. So you have to have the right varnish. You have to have the right coat of paint on your deal, because otherwise, if you don't, someone's going to click somewhere else, and they're going to click away, and they're going to lose interest.
Yeah, do you see any of these guys? Do you see any of these guys doing these SPACs these days? These special purpose acquisition companies, or are they kind of dead?
I'm sort of roughly familiar with the space, but I do think there was a huge SPAC craze about 2 years ago, and I think it's died down a bit. I mean, the problem with the SPAC, without sort of going down a rabbit hole, is that there's in theory a pop of the stock once the SPAC transaction happens, but ultimately, like, there's also a lot of dilution for the company, and so I think there was a fad. I think I've seen a lot of successful SPACs out there, but I've also seen more unsuccessful SPACs.
Yeah, and then
Vicky,
you had a question?
Well, no, that's okay. You can keep on going, Ron. That's fine. But I do agree with Manuj about SPACs. I think they were a trend, not an actuality.
Yeah. Okay, well, my next question at that point would be, okay, so the guy calls you, Kevin, you explain all this stuff, and now when do you see that Manuj is a fit for this thing? When does Manuj get the call and say, okay, kind of help me out here?
For Manuj's core function, I tend to work with him on, which is sort of the investor outreach, not investor relations, but sort of investor services model. We tend to make an introduction about a month before the company launches their fundraise. Manuj's team has gotten very efficient on onboarding. Their onboarding takes about 2 weeks. It's typically sort of in the final steps, just because you need to get an audit done for these things, and those audits can take a while. So I have a lot of, and Manuj, he'll buy me a beer later, but I have a lot of clients in the pipeline now that I'll introduce to Manuj in a few months because they're just not quite ready yet.
Right.
Right.
And you know what I think is really important in crowdfunding that I don't think people put enough time or energy in is the marketing. No matter how great your idea is or how.
Well, I guess we lost Vicky there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that's okay. Well, anyway,
if I can take on her
market is the marketing.
Oh, there she is.
You cut out for a second.
What I was trying to say is marketing is the most important regardless of what kind of crowdfunding you choose to do. If people don't know you're there, nobody is going to invest in you, and people don't market beforehand. They wait until they think, oh, well, I'm going to get the money and then I can do all kinds of marketing. It doesn't work that way. You can't put the horse before the cart.
No, you're absolutely right.
Vicky, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Manuj.
No, sorry, Kevin. So I was just going to go back to a comment that was made earlier in this call, is that a lot of companies who have clients, who have stakeholders, that's where they can leverage and build out their marketing strategy. Because if you have people who believe in your product and service, that have there's a product market fit, and you bring this opportunity not only be clients but being owners, a company can have money coming into their till, assess who are the actual clients that are actually becoming investors, build profiles and bring lookalike audiences, so then when they have the money in their account to invest, into marketing, now they can go outreach and find the similar type of people. Right? At the end of the day, it becomes data. Data yields into information. Information goes to business decisions, and so therefore they can make better business decisions. So that's one way of doing it. Other way is, as Kevin has stated earlier as well, is having proper budgets and having proper expectations. Because if you have a client who's a startup with a concept, and as good as that concept is, they need to stand out. Today's world is really expensive because everyone's online.
Right.
If I can give you some data points, for 2023, we just were analyzing all our clients and all the campaigns that we worked on, and we found on average 5.89% of all leads invested. So approximately 6%. So imagine out of 10,000 leads that came in, or potential investors came down a funnel, 589% of them actually invested per 10,000, and they yielded very big investments in total, accumulated in the millions.
Yeah.
However,
they say.
However, 27% of them, the actual number is 27.2, never finished the process. So as much as I would say marketing is important, and you bring the horse to water, how do you make the horse drink? So that it becomes like, as Kevin was stating, there's an e-commerce execution. You need to have a full holistic plan of proper messaging, proper branding, proper execution of the marketing, and follow-up, and then customer support. And even after the raise is done, answer their questions. When many investors ask questions, say, what are happening with my shares now? When will I get my certificates? Or when will I get my money back? Is the company going public? There's all things that need to be done post-raise as well, so that the investor has confidence in the company, maintains their patience with them, and then grows with them, and hopefully leaves the money in so that the company can grow.
Yeah. I have one more question for both of you guys before we close this out really quickly. Have either of you ever experienced an issuer who have come to you and said, hey, we tried crowdfunding and we failed,
Hello?
or we're in the middle of a program and we're failing, and you came along and kind of turned it around?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Sometimes deals are tough to revive. Oftentimes, if you're stuck on there's some sort of systematic issues, like where a client has already decided to raise with a certain broker or tech platform, and for whatever reason, they're not set up for success, then sometimes you can't turn around deals, but have also worked with plenty of clients that we have been able to turn around. Some of it's small changes. Sometimes you got to shut the round down and reopen with sort of a new strategy or new pricing things. But I've seen plenty of deals fail because they didn't have the right minimum investment, or were selling the wrong type of security. And sometimes little things can really make a difference. But there's plenty of examples. I'm sure Manuj has some too.
Yeah. I apologize. I cut out there for a bit. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
You're
okay,
back.
Perfect. Thank you. My apologies.
Okay. That sounds really good. And let's start with you, Kevin. If people want to find out more about what you're doing or how they could help them, and how's the best way to contact you? You have a phone number, a website, or what do you like best?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can email us at info@atlas-road.com, ATLAS-RD.com, or visit us at www.atlas-rd.com. That would be the best way.
Okay, cool. All is not lost for startup companies then. This is a good resource for them. How about you, Manuj? What's the best way to contact you?
Well, there's two ways as well. If you go on our website, which is www.publicyield.capital, that's PUBLICYIELD.capital, CAPITAL. You can see all the content of the type of service or service offering. And there's a book a demo button, which opens up my calendar, and you can book a meeting that way. Or just shoot me an email directly at Manuj, it's MANUJ, @publicyield.capital.
Okay, cool. What I really like about this podcast and you guys in specifically is that a lot of people talk about crowdfunding from a theoretical level, and they talk about all these theories and this should work, or we should do this, or we should do that. And Vicki, we're talking to two people who've actually done it in real life. They've been successful. They understand it. And we have real world examples, real world successes. And I think that's really great. And it's very, very hard to come by that. But I'm happy that both Kevin and Manuj were able to take time out today and be on the podcast. Well, what do you think? Do you have any final thoughts or questions?
Well, Ron, this I think is one of our more exciting podcasts because exactly like you said, we've done podcasts with Manuj before talking about the right way of going about doing crowdfunding and what you need to consider and blah, blah, blah. But now we have Manuj and one of his clients who has used his advice and become so successful. Now he's helping people do the same thing. And I think that's fabulous. I love it. Kudos to you both, gentlemen, for just being on top of everything and helping the world to be better and businesses to be more successful. I love it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been a pleasure. First, it's been a pleasure talking with you guys today and talking more about crowdfunding, but also, I have to thank Manuj and for not only having me on the podcast here, but for all of his support and all the efforts he's done for myself and my clients. And his team and everything that they do has been really a big part of our success over the last few years.
There you go.
Kevin, I can do the same for you. Thank you so much. And Viggy, you mentioned earlier that you taking my advice. To be honest with you, I've learned more from Kevin in like 15 minutes with him than I knew for the last 5 years that I've worked with him. I think he has helped me be a better service provider in this business. So, Kevin, you should get most of the credit. So thank you for that.
I'll tell you what.
See, that's how relationships work. You help each other and you become better because of it.
Yeah, and Manuj, we've already met you in Las Vegas. Kevin, you're in LA. We haven't seen you yet, but hopefully you'll make it out here. We'll meet up like we met up with Manuj and maybe take 15 minutes of your time and learn.
That would be great. Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm in Vegas.
Excellent.
We don't offer advice on gambling, though.
Yeah.
That's okay.
You don't want that. But anyway, Manuj, again, thank you for being a guest on the show. Kevin, you as well. Vicki, thanks for co-hosting this episode with me. And folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableiusa.com. If you go to that homepage, you scroll down, you'll see all our syndication sources. Just click on the one you like best and subscribe. You'll never miss another one of our episodes. If you want to be a guest on the show like Kevin and Manuj were today, just fill out the guest tab. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard, send us an email at info@mappableiusa.com or just leave a comment on whatever page you're listening to this on right now. So thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. We'll be at you next time with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.